do the most terrifying thing, and that was just not return to work. I was speaking to my spirit team and I was praying. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to sustain myself. And they're like, hold on. You can't approach this learning that you're worthy just for being, for showing up, for doing what brings you joy. You can't do it being normal. You got to be a little crazy. You likely clicked on this video because you want to learn how I and other people get paid to wake up, simply be, take a nap, exist, only do what brings us joy without a paycheck, without clocking in, without waking up and going to a traditional job. Okay. Now, I have just a little bit about me. My name is Azur, and I am a nurse turned intuitive healer for Black and Brown women healing from burnout and trauma, like myself. And I have been on this journey of getting paid to exist, not on purpose. And getting paid to exist means God, source, creator, universe, spirits support me. Okay. But I've been on this journey incidentally since September 2024, and it's now, today is July 5th, 2025. Okay. So I have not had a consistent paycheck or a quote unquote stable job for almost a year now. The intention behind this video, and when I was praying about it, is that I want women to understand, which is something that I've been learning, that you do not have to burn yourself out at work, that your value is not based off of how much money is in the bank, how much you work, how productive you are. I'm going to move out of the sun for a little bit, but how productive you are, okay? Those are not tied to your worth, and you get to be supported by God, Great Mother, universe, ancestors, angels, guides, whoever. I'll call them spirit team for the purposes of this video, okay? They are the ones that supply your needs when you live this way, okay? So let's start with how this all started. So long story short, I've been a nurse for 16 years. I've had a desire. I went through a spiritual awakening. I had a desire to stretch beyond the container of nursing, okay? And I am so grateful for nursing and what it brought to me, not just things, but experience, right? Nurturing and healing, right? I had always wanted to be a nurse, but it became a container after a while. My spirit was restless. I was like, there is something else for me to do. I have no idea what it is. So I realized I had the messages coming in that I meant to be a healer, okay? And eventually a healer for women. I didn't know what kind of healer, but I knew that it was going to be eventually non-traditional. That's a long story, but so we can get into that another time. Let's move this out of the way a little bit. So you'll see my shadow. That's okay. So, I like the palm trees. That's the problem. I love the palm trees in the background. How did this happen? So like I said, this was not my plan. My plan, I went on sabbatical in September 2024, right? I was a travel nurse, so I was taking contracts. So my plan was, I had set aside some savings, some money, and I was like, okay, I'm going to restart my coaching business. I had been coaching off and on for years before, prior to this, off and on, as a healer, like on the side, or I would take time off of contracts, and in between contracts, I would take clients on, just a couple, right? And I was under training with my healer to be a healer, like an apprenticeship. But anyway, so my plan was to start an oil business, selling intentional oils. I was like, okay, I'll do that, and I'll do coaching, and I'll do a retreat. But I ended up launching the Etsy business in September, and that ended up like I really didn't. I sold like 2 oils. So I was living off of my savings for about 3, 4, well, like 4 months. By the fourth month, I had went to Jamaica. I went on a went to a yoga retreat. I, took some time off. I was in Mexico for a while. So by the end of the fourth month, when my savings started to dwindle, I started to get terrified. And I was like, my plan was to have this business, right? And then live off of this business. And I've done this before, right? Where I had taken time off and I was going to live off my savings. And before, when I did that, when I would run out of savings, right, I would go back to work. I'm like, no, I need money. I need to go back to work. Like, it's not happening. And it's really easy for me to get a contract as a travel nurse, right? So by the fourth month, I was like, Spirit team, like, what's happening here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's very little money coming in. Like, I'm going to go back to work. Here's the thing, that was not a part of me. That was not supposed to be the road that I was supposed to take. I made the plan. You know how they say you make plans and God laughs? That was me. Because what I didn't know, and this started to come to me in meditation, and then also my astrology points to me actually learning how to live by faith. And that I needed to take a leap of faith as a healer, right? Teaching women that they are worthy. I needed to take a leap and exit nursing, which was tied to my worth and my value for so many years. Even how I ended up in nursing was I wanted to be a nurse, but I also was told that I wouldn't be good as a teacher. I wouldn't be good as a businesswoman. Which is funny because now I'm both. I'm all of the things. But that was tied to my worth. My spirit team no longer, in order to really step into my work as a healer, I couldn't allow nursing to shrink me any longer. But it was my saving grace. I depended on it. It was like my survival. It was like everything to me. I was like, what? This was my identity. Going to work and working hard, I was like, oh, I'm just going to go take another contract and I'll get to, but that was not the plan. That was not me walking in faith. And I didn't know it at the time. So when I had that download, that realization that my spirit team really was testing me, challenging my spirit team, angels, guides, they were encouraging me. I don't want to say test. When God, source, creator, universe, your ancestors, when your spirit team gives you a plan, right? I had my plan of how I was going to move into the healing space from nursing. But that was not the aligned plan. That was society's plan. And I can't tell you how many times I heard, we'll just go back to work, go take a contract. But that would not have been a test of faith for me. That would not have been a test of me learning that, hey, you know, you need to be walking the walk. You're telling women that they will be sustained, right? That they're worthy, but then you're going back and doing the opposite. I had to do the most terrifying thing, and that was just not return to work. So let's fast forward to once my savings started to dwindle. I had a night in November 2024 that was so terrifying because I was like, I was speaking to my spirit team and I was praying. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to sustain myself. And they're like, hold on, hold on. And I'm kind of sugarcoating how terrifying it was. It was actually really, really scary. Imagine you've been taught that in order to survive, you needed a ton of money. You needed something to fall back on. You needed stability. But here I am stepping out on faith, doing something crazy, doing something that people would just like be like, what are you doing? Right? Hi. Oh my god, he looks like David. Oh my god. That dog looks just like my dog David. He was 16 years old when he passed in December 2022. That was a message from him. He's here with me. Oh my god. So I had that terrifying moment, but I knew that I had to do something different. I couldn't go back to work this time. And I meditated, and while in meditation, I had this download to offer a package to former clients, healing packages. So, which are, I called them soul coaching packages. I sent the message to the clients, went about my day. I ended up getting signups for that package. Okay. And I was like, okay, okay, okay. I kind of see how, Spirit, I see how you all are might be doing this. Mind you, I was still scared. Because why? Because even though that happened, when you're so dependent on the paycheck, right? When the paycheck is what brings you safety, you've been conditioned that the paycheck is what brings you safety, and you don't have that consistent, it's scary. It doesn't matter that money is coming in. The next example I want to give you of how I get paid to exist, because these are examples, because I want to give you actual mechanisms on how this actually works. I had to move out of my Airbnb. I had no idea where I was going to go. Okay. So I said, okay, let's do this again, y'all. Spirit team, let's do this again. How is this going to work? So this time I was a little less scared because that next, or that the client download came. So I went ahead and I actually got this download to reach out to an old landlord. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, do you have a place? And he's like, oh yeah, I actually have a empty it was actually an apartment they had renovated above a family member's house, one of his family members' houses. So I'm like, okay, I have the money, moved in. I move in. After that, I had a friend end up asking me to help her to sell some of her jewelry. Not a ton of money, but it was like something. It was like, okay, like I have money coming in for food. And then I was like talking to a friend one day. I was like, I feel like I'm actually like good. I feel like I'm like being taken care of, like cautiously. And I'm like, this might be working out. As I'm talking to her, she sends me money. It wasn't like something that normally happened to me. Now, there have been a ton of instances. It's July 5th, remember? That was September. It's July 5th, 2025. That was September. There have been so many instances just like that where I've been paid to exist, where I didn't know, where I didn't see where the money was going to come from, where the food, where the place to stay was going to come from. This is teaching me, has been teaching me, and what my spirit team wanted me to realize, right, is that this is the path of my highest good. Not going back to what is practical, what people would think is normal. This, you can't approach this learning that you're worthy just for being, for showing up, for doing what brings you joy. You can't do it being normal. You got to be a little crazy, right? And this is teaching me my value. Yes, it's for, the women that I'm healing, and the women, the souls the aligned souls that are coming to me, right? Healing from burnout, from the belief, just like the women in my lineage, this is legacy lineage work that I'm doing because women in my lineage worked hard for money. So I'm healing the first one in my family to do this, to be free. So this is about me and my lineage and healing, getting paid to exist. It's not just a trend. It's just not, it's honest, it's raw, it's medicine. And no, it's not easy, but it's mostly not easy when fear can consume you. Not because I'm not taken care of. Even when I'm taken care of, I'll still be scared. Like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, which is why nervous system regulation is important. And what I've learned is that I have to tell fear that it doesn't get to control me, that I do get to receive, that I am taken care of, that I'm worthy of just being taken care of, not via hard work, but just being here. I have some free resources for you. I have a free class called the Empress Method that teaches you how to magnetize, not chase, not work hard for money. Feminine nervous system guide is down there too. I also have some paid resources for you too. Click the link below. Thank you so much for watching. Join the community if you're interested in this healing work of getting paid to exist, learning that your worth is not tied to how much you produce, okay? As an empress, as royalty. I love you so much.